Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt, live in Studio West, joined by United States Senator Steve Daines from the great state of Montana. Good morning, Senator. Welcome back.
Well, thanks, Hugh. And by the way, Montana is a great state, Hugh. I know we agree on that.
Yes, we do. I fished out the Madison once, but I think it's recovered. Steve Daines, let me talk to you about, you are the chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. But before I go there, I want to know about the reaction in the Senate GOP caucus to demands for more gun control from the President of the United States. And Lindsey Graham came out and said, we need to fund police at school. Is that the caucus's general view?
Yeah, look, first of all, that shooting in Nashville came pretty close to home for me. I've attended Covenant Presbyterian in Nashville. I've spent time with their senior pastor, Chad Scruggs, who lost his daughter, Hallie. I've been in the school where the shooting occurred. First of all, it's outrageous to me the way the President of the United States handled the situation. Where is the compassion and sympathy to these families who've been absolutely, tragically affected for the rest of their lives? So it is hard to put into words, what happened there in Nashville, how horrible, how evil that was. And also at the same time with evil, praising those Nashville law enforcement officers. That body cam footage was chilling to see what they did. They acted decisively. They neutralized the threat. These guys are heroes, and God bless them. But regarding what's to be done, gun control and calls for that is not the answer. There's consensus amongst the Republican senators. It's about securing these soft targets, these schools. And whether that means more school resource officers, retired veterans who are trained that can protect these schools, they need to be hardened. And there also, of course, is a mental health crisis. This individual that shot up that Nashville school had problems certainly in many ways in her life. And so, but the answer is not to impose more gun control. That is not going to solve this problem.
I also think the answer, you folks in the United States Congress spent like $7 trillion in the last 4 years, and for good purposes and for bad. We've got to endow school districts in this country with enough to put 2 armed officers at every campus, private and public. And that's not that much money. And an endowment, one-time endowment, they only get to spend the interest, is the way to go. Does anyone ever talk about that?
Yeah, there was legislation passed at several years ago. Well, it was Orrin Hatchman was in the Senate. I remember he was talking about it, that provided federal grants here to help schools harden the target. I agree with you, Hugh. My daughter's a 4th grade teacher. I called her when this was unfolding, and as we were talking through a basic security protocol. As a parent, when you drop off your child at your school, you want to make sure that you're going to pick them up and they're going to be safe. Look at what's going on at the U.S. Capitol. We have armed security here that protects the Capitol. We need to do the same thing for our schools.
Thank you, Senator. Let's turn to politics. I'm looking at the map. You are in the recruitment season. Now, every day I listen to 2 podcasts on the Ohio State University Buckeyes, and it's always recruitment season in Ohio. And John Thune is complaining we took his best quarterback out of South Dakota. Of course we will. We'll vacuum up everyone. But there are 5-star recruits, and there are 1-star recruits, and then there are walk-ons. And we don't need any more walk-ons in Senate races. We need 5-star recruits. How's it going?
Well, I've always said, Hugh, that elections are oftentimes decided on filing day, not on election day. Who gets in the races makes all the difference. We've got a map that's good. We can't fall in love with it, but we've got a good map, and it's about getting candidates who can win both a primary election and a general election, because winning a primary is not sufficient. You've got to be able to win a general election. You've got to be able to appeal to a broader cross-section. At the end of the day, Hugh, I studied chemical engineering in college. I was pretty good at math.
Ooh.
Politics is about addition, not subtraction and division. So we've got to be additive as we think about candidates who can appeal across the spectrum of the center-right and Republicans, but also appeal to independents. The reason we saw such disappointing results in 2022 is because independent voters they leaned on the Democrat side, when typically in a midterm election with a Democrat in the White House, we should have seen an R plus 5 to 15 advantage with independent voters. Instead, they went D+2. That is part of the reason why you saw not only the Senate candidates fall short in 22, but the House candidates as well. Kevin McCarthy should have a 20 or 30 seat majority in the House. It turned out to be 5. I think when you look at underneath the covers, it's because independent voters did not have candidates that appealed to them, and they stayed on the Democrat side of the ledger.
All right, let's talk about the swing states. One of those is Montana, your home state. You've told me before you're working on it. Any updates?
Yeah, so when you take a look at the map, there are 3 red states that have Democrat senators. That's Montana, it's West Virginia, it's Ohio. Each of these states, these 3 states, are states where there's only one Democrat statewide elected official left. The Republicans are statewide in every one of those 3 states. Only John Tester is the Democrat in Montana. Only Joe Manchin in West Virginia. Only Sherrod Brown in Ohio. They are an endangered species. And when we think about 24, there's 3 red states like that, but you peek over the horizon to 26 and to 28, it's 0. There's 0 red states with Democrats up in 26. There's 0 red states with Democrats up in 28. We either deliver the majority in 24, or we are relegated to likely a minority for the rest of the decade. That's a chilling thought when you think about tax policy, think about judges, think about cabinet appointments, thinking about what they'll do to the Supreme Court by adding 4 more justices. The Democrats have their way. So in Montana, what we've got at the moment is we have, of course, Matt Rosendale's looking at the race, I understand. Also a businessman named Tim Sheehy. He's a Navy SEAL. He's looking at the race. And Attorney General Austin Knudsen, who's statewide elected, is also looking at the race. They would be strong candidates. It's going to be an interesting time to watch how this all sorts out, but we're paying very close attention to my home state of Montana.
Is Governor Justice going to run in West Virginia?
He's looking strongly at doing that. I've met with him. I've spoken to him. He's taken a strong look at getting the race. He's one of the most popular governors in the country. He'd be a formidable candidate. He just signed the largest tax cut in West Virginia history. He's taking a bit of a victory lap across West Virginia, as he should. By the way, West Virginia is one of the reddest states in the country, and voters are really upset with Manchin about partnering with Biden in that so-called Inflation Reduction Act. He cut a deal with the devil on that one, Hugh, and it's costing him politically. Polling data in West Virginia shows Justice beats Manchin overwhelmingly. So if Justice gets in the race, and I think he's leaning hard to do so, that is a really good pickup opportunity for the Republicans.
Have you talked to Doug Ducey about Arizona?
So Doug Ducey and I, by the way, both worked at Procter & Gamble once upon a time. He went to Cold Stone Creamery. I went to the software business. I've known Doug for a long time. He's a great governor. Doug is taking some time after being governor. He's evaluating what he wants to do next. Of course, he'd be a really good recruit into the Arizona race. More to come on that. We'll see.
Okay, you've cleared the field in Indiana. Jim Banks is going to be the next senator from Indiana. Next door in Ohio, there is Matt Dolan, State Senator Matt Dolan, and there's Bernie Moreno, entrepreneur. They're both very strong candidates. I would prefer if they flipped a coin and one got in. I don't want anyone else in. Those 2 guys know what they're doing. What's the status in the Buckeye State?
So I think you'll need to put a 3rd horse in that race. That's Frank LaRose, who's the Secretary of State of Ohio, statewide elected. So you've got Bernie Moreno, businessman from the Cleveland area, Frank LaRose, the Secretary of State, also a Green Beret, and Matt Dolan, who's a state senator from the Cleveland area. All 3 of those candidates would be good candidates in a primary. And by the way, they all could win a general election. So I look at candidates, primary winners, general election winners. I think all 3 of them fit that criteria. But keep in mind, Hugh, as you know, Ohio's gotten redder because Democrats have abandoned the working class, blue-collar voters that you need to win that state.
But Sherrod Brown is the best at pretending not to be a Democrat of anyone I know.
Well, John Tester fits that bill pretty well too, Hugh. I mean, these Democrats incumbents in red states are very good politicians. That is why these are all going to be major battles here for us. You know, they say people vote with their eyes. They see Sherrod Brown, they see John Tester. You know, they look moderate, but they vote very liberal. And by the way, we've set up an an online account called Senate24.com. Senate24.com. That's going to escrow dollars now for Montana, West Virginia, and Ohio, that whoever comes out of those primaries as the winner, we will transfer to the candidate fund the day after the primary. Again, Senate24.com. We've got to get better at raising those small dollar donations, Hugh. It's focused on those 3 states, because I can tell you on November 5th of 2024, on election night, we know 3 questions on the final exam for that election. It's going to be Montana, West Virginia, Ohio. Let's get ready now. We're doing that on the candidate recruitment side. We also have to raise the resources so they can win. We were outspent, by the way, in 22 by 3-1 on every Senate race that was competitive in this country. We cannot allow the Democrats to have their massive cash tsunami. We've got to fight back.
Next here, Pennsylvania. David McCormick would make that competitive. Doug Mastriano will lose it. Are you going to play in the primary?
Well, if you have somebody that there's not a path to win a general election, we're not going to sit on the sidelines and be idle. There are a number of other groups out in the center-right universe that are not going to sit back and allow an unelectable Republican filing candidate to win a primary. We saw that in Missouri, Hugh. If you remember, it was Eric Greitens against Eric Schmitt. Eric Schmitt was our attorney general, now a U.S. senator. Eric Greitens had to resign in disgrace as governor, and there were some groups outside that made sure that Eric Schmitt won that primary in Missouri. We've got to do more of that now in races across the country. Dave McCormick is the type of candidate who can win a primary election and a general election. If Dave gets in the race, we're going to be with him.
Last question. We got less than a minute, Senator. Nevada, I love Adam Laxalt. I think he's going to be doing other things in 2024, but do you have a candidate lined up? Because Nevada remains on the razor's edge.
Yeah, it does. Nevada, by the way, is trending Republican. Adam Laxalt lost that race by just 4 votes per precinct. That was a turnout issue on election because of snow in the northern part of Nevada. I spoke with Governor Lombardo last night. We are working on a couple of candidates there that can win the general election. More to come on that.
Steve Daines, keep coming back. Senate24.com. Put your money to work to get the Senate majority back. We got to win that. Steve Daines, thank you. Stay tuned, America.